I mean, we come from greatness, and I even explained to like one of my coworkers who's not African American that it's important that everybody knows this. This is like not just for my books are not just for Black people, African American people, the diaspora. It's not just for us because this is world history. It's world history.
So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Elogeia on, and she can tell you a bit about what she's writing about and why it's important that you read it. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
It's
So
nice to see you.
I was just telling the audience about how important it is for us to celebrate Black history this year, if not any other year, this year especially because of everything that's going on right now. And I'm not saying that Black History Month is going away. I don't believe that Black History
Right.
Month is going away. However, it's very important that we continue to tell our stories because, as you can see, DEI, which some people think is only about race and not about equal opportunity across the board. We're seeing that many of the things that we were teaching our kids in school are being taken out. Even our military is having to take certain history out of their curriculum. So it is very important that we celebrate our own culture and that we educate our children, because if we don't, nobody else will.
Nope.
And this is why your books are so important.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wrote him. Everything you just said is exactly why I published my Black History books. I saw this back when my daughter had her culture fair. And you remember those culture fairs back in the day when everybody showed up and showed their culture and things. But I always felt like our kids never had anything to show. But I said, well, our history, our inventors. So I put together a table. And when I saw the reaction of the kids, and they were different kids from different cultures and different backgrounds, loving what they were seeing. The teachers were loving it. And at the end, they told me my table was the best table. It came before Hawaii and their Hawaiian dances. It came before, you know what I mean? I was excited.
Yes.
And then I was like, okay, what if I had to make this slideshow? Because it was a slideshow I had. What if I make it into a book? So then my research started. This is 10 years ago. And exactly everything you said was the reason I published these Black History books with our inventors, our architects. Because if you don't know who you are, other people get a chance to tell you and assume that you grow up confused. You don't even know really who you are and what you're capable of.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing. We know if our ancestors did it, we know we can do it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And that was like the one of the main reasons. You hit all the nails on the head. Exactly why I kind of saw this coming. I don't know if that's, I kind of felt like this was going to be needed. Unfortunately, it's in this environment, but right now I'm even pushing classes. Like if I can get some, even at churches and, I'll probably even do a one-on-one. But it is vital right now that we, especially our children, know their greatness, especially the children.
Absolutely. You are so right. And like I said, that's the reason why I love your books, because you have broken down our history in so many different ways. It's not like a fire hose. And I know sometimes we feel like we're feeding people through a fire hose. It's like, know this, know that, know this, know that. I mean, even my own daughter, I'm really glad that I taught her the way I taught her as she was growing up. But at one time she was like, Mama, you're forcing this down my throat. But the thing is, she wasn't learning these things in school. There were a lot of things that I had to teach her myself because she wasn't learning them in school. She didn't even go to a predominantly Black high school until she was in the 11th grade.
Oh, wow.
So there were certain things. She went to in fact, and I'm not blaming the school, but she went to an international school. So there were so many different nationalities and so many different countries there. that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't really focus just on
Mm-hmm.
Black history. And not that any school needs to focus on just on Black history, but people need to
Mm-hmm.
realize that Black history is American history. It's a part of our history as a whole.
Absolutely. It's world history because we're,
Yes.
from my research and stuff that I found, we are the beginning of everything. We're
Yes.
African people and the people of the diaspora. We were the first to circumnavigate the world. We was the first to build pyramids. We were the first, like, people, my auntie used to hate us to say the first, the first, the first. I'm like, but auntie, we were. She's like, because we always been this. We always had this greatness, but they don't teach it in school. They don't teach it in school. And I had to learn the difference between charter school and public school. I recently just learned this last year coming out there to DC.
Okay.
Literally. I didn't know that there was like a difference. Like the charter schools are more open that I can talk to them to teach this to their kids because they can kind of develop their own program. Whereas the
Right.
public schools they have to stay attached to whatever the state say is okay for them to teach. And see, I didn't know
Hmm.
that. I didn't know that. And this, I have a
It's a
couple of,
part of the curriculum, and you have to get your
right.
curriculum approved ahead of time before you can
Yep.
start teaching.
Yes, and I didn't know that. I don't know what I thought. There's teachers just walking there all willy-nilly just teaching stuff. Maybe that's what I thought. They didn't have to have a program. And when they explained it to me, I was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. So yeah, we didn't teach, I didn't learn any of this in school either. I went to junior high school was it was I went to Frederick Douglass in Chicago, which was predominantly Black. So we had
Hmm.
teachers that would feed us only what they knew. They didn't feed. But see, I went a step further. I went back to predate slavery. I went back
Mm.
to um warrior queens. I went back to Mansa Musa, the richest man that ever
Yes.
lived. Nobody
Yes.
has surpassed his wealth. I went back to his nephew who was one of the first, who was here before Columbus. They believe he got to the Americas. So I went a step further because I just didn't want our kids to only understand, no disrespect, but Malcolm had, Malcolm X. Most of the kids don't know who he is, and they're just, and then Martin had a
What,
dream, and
what, I-
then
what I
Rosa
had to
sat
learn about
down.
Malcolm X, though, and not to cut you off, but one thing I learned about
Mhm.
Malcolm X is that many people who were around when during his heyday didn't
Mhm.
really understand him. And
No.
I love my grandmother to life. God rest her soul. But I
Mhm.
remember asking her who Malcolm X was, and the way she described him, I could tell that she didn't really understand him. And
Mhm.
if you really look back, people were always comparing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
That's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Mhm. And they
They
thought that
need
Martin
to
Luther King was,
the
he was
good
the
one,
peaceful person. He was the good guy. And Malcolm X was the
the
bad guy.
troublemaker.
Yeah, the troublemaker.
That's what I mean. Like, my daughter had a friend who didn't know who he was, and that did something to my soul. I was like, what do you mean? She don't know who
Hmm.
Malcolm X is. She's like, Mom, she was like, who is that? And she had to explain to her who he was. I was like, oh my God, we're that far away? Are we that
Hmm.
far away? Because I can remember in the
Well,
90s and the 80s, we still had our X shirts on and our X hats on, like
yeah.
I was like,
But
then
I have
it's
to admit,
crazy.
I didn't really know a lot about Malcolm X.
Hmm.
First of all, I read his book.
Hmm.
And that was when I learned more about him. And then when Spike Lee released his movie X,
Hmm.
that was really I was in college at that time actually when that movie
Hmm.
came out. But that was when I really started to learn who he was and what he
Yeah.
was all about.
Mhm.
And I remember I was very active in my college's Black Student Union at that
Mhm.
time. And I had the idea of making this a an activity basically.
I mean, we come from greatness, and um, I even explained to like one of my coworkers who's not African American that it's important that everybody knows this. This is like not just for my books are not just for Black people, African American people, the diaspora. It's not just for us because this is world history. is world history. It should
Yes.
be added already to the curriculums and things like that. But right now, I don't know. All I can do is like offer my services if someone needs them. you because they're like he's like cutting and like but we don't need them. We don't need anybody to tell us when to celebrate us. we,
Exactly. We
we're
don't
good
we
at
don't
that.
need that. And that's why I said even if it goes away,
Hmm.
it may go, it's not going to go away, first of all. But even if
Right.
it goes away, that doesn't stop us from celebrating our own history. It doesn't
Absolutely.
stop us from teaching our children who they
Absolutely.
are.